In this video, we're looking at another practice exercise for OET Listening Part A, and this is our context statement here. You hear a neurologist talking to the father of a 9-year-old boy called Tony, who's recently started having seizures. It tells us for questions 13 through 24, complete the notes with a word or short phrase that you hear, and it gives us 30 seconds to look at the notes. So let's start with that. What do you do with those 30 seconds? And a couple of things to keep in mind. First and foremost, it seems obvious, but don't forget to just check how the notes are organized with those headings. Often this can help you as you're listening know when the questions have moved on to the next part. The second thing I encourage you to do is skim quickly the spacing of your answers. Are they all together? Are there going to be questions that you have to answer back to back to back? And if there are, that tends to be challenging because you'll hear in those questions a lot of substitutionary language synonyms, and you'll also have to keep pace with the audio. This one's quite nice. There's a couple that are grouped together. For example, if we take a look down there, 18 and 19 seem back to back, 20, 21 are back to back, and 23, 24 are back to back. But we don't have a section that is 5 or 6 questions without, a small space in between with something else. So here's what to expect. Generally, if it's a question for the bullet point or the note, you're going to hear synonyms or paraphrasing. You likely won't hear the exact word. There's exceptions. For example, pediatrician it's a challenging word to substitute. There's not a lot of alternatives there. So keep that in mind. The majority of the time, if it's a common word that has substitutionary options, then you will see those. Now, for the points there that are not part of questions, so we see in between 14 and 15, there's just a note there, same with between 15 and 16. Let me put them all in blue for us there. Typically, these ones have less synonyms in them. Why? Well, if we think about it, these are not the ones you're being tested on. So we want to use these to try to stay on track. When you hear keywords, for example, tired, or you hear maybe something similar to limited recall, might not be the exact same word, but pretty much the same. When you hear infection or viral infection, that will give you a sense of where are we in this audio. So we want to use anything we can to help us follow. Another thing is, so let me change color again. What do we expect to hear? Well, as I said in the previous video, usually the language right before the question is substituted. So again, there's exceptions. For example, mouth is not an easy word to substitute. There's not a lot of alternatives. But for example, suffers from, you can imagine other ways of expressing that. Or the word feeling. What other words do we have for that? And sometimes it won't be substituted, but a lot of the time it will be. So I want you to pay attention to these sort of things. These are all different tools you can use to anticipate what sort of questions you're going to get. Now, as we're listening here, I want you to pay attention to 3 things, and I'll type them at the top of my screen. Synonyms, and I'll put also paraphrasing. Typically with synonyms, we're talking about one word that's changed. Paraphrasing is more an entire phrase that's substituted. In listening part A, we get more synonyms, whereas in sections B and C, you often see more the whole phrase is changed. Second thing I want you to look for is something that I call distractors. Distractors in the sense of you're given 2 options. So let's go back. If you remember from my previous video there, we had an example with the patient was unable to continue night driving. They had to stop night driving. But we also heard something before that about watching television or watching TV. So the TV is what we call a distractor. It's something you maybe initially think, this could fit the space, but then you listen carefully and you hear, it's actually It's the night driving that he has to stop and not the TV watching. So distractors are basically alternative options. But if you listen closely enough, only one of them is actually going to correctly fit that space. The third thing I want you to look out for is information ordering. And what I mean by this is look at your notes as you're listening and watch how many times the order in one of the questions is not exactly the same as what we hear. So a good example of this, maybe for example, in number 18, you might hear mention of the grandfather. Then after that, you hear information about whatever this blank is. So this expectation that sometimes the end of the question comes first. Another example, maybe number 14, face. Maybe you hear something about the face first, and then after that you hear what the answer is. And this is what I mean about the ordering of information within one question. Something that is certain is you'll always hear 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You'll hear those sequentially. So that is fixed and doesn't change. But as you notice, there's within the phrase itself, it's not always the first thing written is the first thing you hear. And that can often confuse us, getting lost in some of those details. Okay, so let's get started here. And just to clean up my notes a little bit, I am going to erase these just so you're able to focus a little bit more. But keep those things in mind as we listen. And then you can, afterwards, I'll point out some key things there. All right, let's go ahead there and get started.
So, Mr. Fitzgerald, I understand that Tony's 9 and his seizures started about 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, that's right. The paediatrician was worried because Tony was experiencing what he called episodes of confusion. That's why he recommended this neurological evaluation.
I see. So what happens when Tony has a seizure?
I suppose the first thing we notice is that he gets this kind of vacant look. We didn't understand what was happening at first, why it was that he didn't seem to answer our questions, but he's since told us that he can't. It's like he loses the power of speech altogether. I had a chat with his teachers to see if they'd spotted anything unusual, and they said they'd sometimes noticed the same kind of behaviour at school too. Later, we noticed that his mouth moves. It's as if he was chewing something, but there's nothing there. I suppose all that goes on for about a minute or two, and then it takes about 5 minutes or so before he's back to his normal self.
And how is Tony after a seizure?
Well, one thing that struck me was that he hardly remembers anything about it at all. I found that very disconcerting at first. He's told us that he becomes frightened whilst the attacks are happening and that he feels exhausted after. In fact, he often needs to lie down for a bit, and he might even nod off. He also complains about having really bad headaches, though that doesn't happen every time.
And how would you describe Tony's ability to cope with life in general?
Let me pause there. So one thing a little bit different from last video, I want to see how do you fill this out in real time without me giving you the answer right after we hear it. So let's go 13 through 17. We heard that transition. So you'll often hear the doctor or the healthcare professional, they'll transition into the next category with a question as well. But did you catch 13 through 17? Let's go review our answers and then look at what was challenging there. So the first one, probably one of the harder ones of this text, and keep this in mind. Often the first question in both parts A, but also B and C as well, it's hard to know when does the introduction part start, when does that part finish, and when does the first question start. So the correct answer here may have been harder than you think to find, but let's check. Did you catch it? It was episodes of confusion. And this is hard for two reasons. One is it's kind of thrown into this rambling story. And second, it's a description. So when you see the words like describing and feeling, they're going to often be less technical than some of the other questions. Now, if you just put confusion, that's not a complete answer. So we do need the whole part to be grammatically correct in there, in that case. 14, begin with a something on face. So when you read that, you might think, okay, are we talking like a spot, a rash, a bump? What are we talking? In this case, maybe a little bit surprising too. It was a vacant look. Vacant, whoops, spelling there, vacant look on the face. So be careful with those kind of ones where it's maybe not immediately what you expect. And we heard that. You are listening for some sort of description as well. 15, okay. Mouth. So we did have clues that that was coming. His mouth makes something movements. What did you hear? Correct answer there should have been chewing. Chewing. Let me just fix this here. Perfect. So chewing. Let's go write that in as well here. And looks like my, yeah, there we go. My mouse is back. Great. So let's actually put that here. Another descriptor, which is not even necessarily medical, right? It's just trying to describe what these things are. And the patient will do this a lot. So we need to be ready or prepared for those sort of words to be the answer. All right, 16, reports feeling something during seizure. So we had a couple of clues. We didn't hear the word feeling exactly, but the emotion we did hear is frightened. And from our last video, don't forget ED endings are very common when we're describing emotions, feelings, and generally adjectives and adverbs. We see those. And finally, often suffers from something. Headaches. And if you put the intensity in this case really bad, that is optional. You'll notice this pattern a lot. If the patient's describing the frequency, severity in very relaxed language, like really bad, really intense, mild, often that part that I've put in the parentheses, that's optional for the answer. The key part there is headaches. So what I want to do with you, let's go back and listen. And this time, let's think about things like synonyms. Let's think about distractors. And let's think about the order of information to look at why those answers were challenging to find. And I'm going to make some marks as we go through that. And then in the next video, we'll take a look at the remaining questions, going through the same, answering them and analyzing them for strategies. So let's go back here and take a look there.
So, Mr. Fitzgerald, I understand that Tony's 9 and his seizures started about 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, that's right. The paediatrician was worried because Tony was experiencing what he called episodes of confusion. That's why he recommended this neurological evaluation.
I see. So what happened?
Pause there. Did you hear that? So what he called, trying to get at that description as a more verbal explanation, right? So pay attention to things like that. Often the explanations, they're sort of substituted with the language beforehand.
What happens when Tony has a seizure?
I suppose the first thing we notice is that he gets this kind of vacant look. We didn't
Begin, substitute, first thing we notice, right?
understand what was happening at first, why it was that he didn't seem to answer our questions. But he's since told us that he can't. It's like he loses the power of speech altogether. I had a chat with his teachers to see if they'd spotted anything unusual, and they said they'd sometimes noticed the same kind of behaviour at school too. Later, we noticed that his mouth moves. It's as if he was chewing something, but there's nothing there.
Pause. So this is interesting. Order of information. His mouth moves, and we see movements comes at the end here, and then it goes as if, the chewing movements or describing that. So often that's sort of how things are switched around. Hopefully you could hear that as we went.
I suppose all that goes on for about a minute or two, and then it takes about 5 minutes or so before he's back to his normal self.
Pause again for a second. The other thing to notice is how much the patient elaborates. So they do provide a lot of extra information, or they give the facts, but they also give additional details that aren't there. So part of the challenge is sorting through from what the patient says, what is actually the core content here about his story versus what is sort of extra details about the teachers and this and that isn't actually needed on these case notes. So we want to keep that critical listening view in mind for those things. Let's keep going. So the next one's here.
And how is Tony after a seizure?
Well, one thing that struck me was that he hardly remembers anything about it at all. I found that very disconcerting at first. He's told us that he becomes frightened whilst the attacks are happening, and that he feels
becomes frightened while the attacks are happening, right? So you notice how that's substituted while, during, reports for becomes, so that those sort of things to expect as well.
Exhausted after. In fact, he often needs to lie down for a bit, and he might even nod off. He also complains about having really bad headaches, though that doesn't happen every time.
And
great, complains of rather than suffers. So lots of things like this. In this one, we do have actually quite a few synonyms in between, like exhausted for tired. Most of the time, we don't, in a lot of the practice scenarios, there aren't as many synonyms in between, but it just depends again on how difficult the listening is to follow, and sometimes those are introduced to add that challenge. So far, lots of synonyms, and the order of information somewhat substituted there. Haven't heard too many distractors where, for example, let's say number 16, if he said, well, he becomes really anxious after the seizure, but it's really during the seizure that he's frightened. Notice how we have two different feelings there, or states, and only one of them is during. That would be an example of a distractor, and they are quite common where there's two potential items that could fit, but only one actually does. So let me know in the comments down below, how did you do on questions 13 through 17? Did you catch them? My biggest question is, did you catch 13 and even 14? Because those are probably two of the more challenging ones there. In our next video, we'll look at 18 through 24. We'll do the same sort of approach and really try to break down where these challenges are coming from. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. Click that notification bell so you receive a notification when my next video comes out. And let me know in the comments, what are you struggling with and what have you feel you've improved upon through learning these tutorials together?